Hi, this is a recorded episode speaking with Joel Kramer on the Great Rabbino. How are you, Joel?
I'm well. How are you? Thanks for
Doing
having
okay.
me.
Yeah, my pleasure's all mine. This is what I love to do. I even have my Danny Shays basketball in the back. One of the tallest Jews I know. Um,
Right.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your playing career. So you played at San Diego State. What was your experience like there?
It was great. I was very fortunate. I was not a highly recruited player. Was almost a walk on. I got tuition. I got a tuition scholarship, and back then that was worth all of $225. And I made the team as a freshman, and then the second semester I was given a full scholarship, and I had a nice career at San Diego State. I wouldn't say it was spectacular, but it was nice, and I had good teammates, and we had a pretty good record. And I was very fortunate to play with some good players and good teammates, and had a chance to play in the NCAA playoffs. I think my last 2 years, so that was fun.
And
Didn't
then you
make
got
it past the first round, but it was fun nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm sure incredible experience. I was behind the scenes at one, and I was just like, oh, to be a player must be overwhelming, but at the same time, the energy is just you can't replace it. You can't change. It's priceless. And then you got drafted in the NBA third round, correct?
Correct.
So tell me, so now that we don't have 3 rounds, and in my lifetime, I believe we've only had 2 rounds, drafted in the third round, does that guarantee you a spot on the team? Is it like the NFL where you're sort of fighting for a spot? How did it work? And when you caught on with the Suns, what was that like?
No, I certainly wasn't guaranteed a spot. And I would say being drafted in the third round was actually totally unexpected, at least by me.
Okay.
I didn't have, no one spoke to me beforehand. I didn't go to any type of workouts beforehand. Nowadays they bring players in, they watch them play, then they decide. Back then, there was none of that. And I ended up getting, my college coach had said, a few teams had called them, and that was sort of the end of it. Didn't know if I'd be drafted or not. And then I'm actually at home on draft day. Literally, we were all cleaning our house up because we were about to give it back because school was over. And I get a call from Jerry Colangelo, and introduced himself, and oh, hi. We just drafted you. Oh, you did? It was sort of interesting. And that was I was really very surprised, unexpected. And then, I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything. And so I said, well, we'll be getting in touch with you. Back then, the first thing is you come to Summer League. And then what happened was I cut my hand when Summer League was supposed to start, and sliced a tendon in my wrist. It wasn't serious, but I was out for 6 weeks. And so I call him and say, this is what happened. And, you should have called us. We would have set up doctors. I said, I didn't even know. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to call you, set up doctors. I went to a orthopedic surgeon, and, this is what they did. They got tests, and then he was, well, come and get your physical. And I did. And I think it actually lucked out because of that, I was just brought to camp. And I don't remember I think there were probably 18, 20 people in camp. And it was great. It was challenging. I would say you play against these players. I didn't really think I was the top 12. I was counting the players ahead of me. And then what happened was, they waived a few players, and some who I actually thought, quite honestly, were better, had more talent than I did. And, asking people, God, that seems weird that so-and-so got cut. How come? And, well, he didn't always follow coach's rules, And, one thing coach is that he expected you to and it wasn't not off the court rules, but you know, if we're setting up play for X, we expect X to get the ball type thing, or play defense or whatever it is. And so then, and the day before the season was supposed to start, there were still like 13 guys on the team, and they made a trade. The Suns traded the center, Dennis Autry, to Seattle, and for a draft pick. And so there was a spot. So I lucked out.
Yeah.
I was the odd man in. And so like I said, I was in the right place, the right time, the right team. I mean, I don't know that I could have played for too many other teams or coaches. Coach McLeod was my coach the whole time. You know, he had, you know, he expected you to be prepared, work hard, follow directions, and understand basketball. And, you know, those things I could do very well and make an effort. And so I was very fortunate.
So you played for the Suns, and then you went over to for about 5-6 years, and then you went to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And
I played for the Suns for 5 years.
And then what was the experience like in Israel?
The experience was good. They didn't like me as a player. They didn't really like me as a player. I actually had considered, that's where I thought I might play after college. Not knowing I'd be drafted, I had actually spoken to Maccabi Tel Aviv, and they had, and I actually went to Israel prior to the Suns camp, and I worked out for them, and they said, well, if it doesn't work out, maybe we'll have you back. And that was sort of the end of it. And then fast forward 5 years later, the Suns had drafted a big man and then also traded for a big man. And so at that time, I knew there wasn't any, you know, absent 2 injuries, I knew there wasn't any room for me. I asked if they would either release me. They said no, you know, in case someone gets hurt, which I understood. There was no bad blood. It made a good business decision. So I spoke to my agent. At that time, I actually had an agent. And he said, well, do you want to try to go to Israel? I said, sure. And so I went there. I tried out. They offered me a contract. I went home to get my stuff. And then, again, it wasn't a bad experience, but they expected a much flashier player, is the bottom line. You know, they figured someone who played in the NBA for 5 years was going to dunk a lot and, you know, be flashy, and that, you know, that wasn't my game in college. That wasn't my game in the NBA. That wasn't my game in the Jewish Community Center basketball league. It just wasn't how I played.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Israel, while a powerhouse in basketball, the games don't always translate. There's some guys who go over to Israel and are superstars, and you think it would translate back, and then and vice versa. There's guys who are great in the NBA. They go over to Israel. You know, Jordan Farmar was a far more influential player in the NBA and had far more success than he did in Israel, which doesn't really make so much sense. Then you have other guys who go over, and like Anthony Parker, who was this tremendous European player, and he was a good NBA player. Yeah, it doesn't always, not the same.
In fact, one of the teammates, when I went to Israel, there was a person there, Frank Burkowski, who tried out for the Suns, didn't make it. He was my teammate, and he was the best player on Maccabi Tel Aviv at the time. And then he played the end of that year, and even though he didn't make the Suns, he had a great career, 2 years at Maccabi, and then he went to the Lakers and played like for 12 years. Had a phenomenal NBA career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, timing is everything, and the coaches matter. My style of game didn't fit very well with the coach. I have no animosity. It was a good experience. I enjoyed it. I probably had a better experience than they did. I know that a good friend of mine is an Israeli, and he always remarks to me, I was voted the worst American player ever to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv or something like that.
Well, it's an award, which is good. It's better than not having an award. Tell me a little bit about your Jewish life growing up and how you connect today.
Yeah, I grew up in a fairly active, conservative family. My father actually formed the shul probably when I was in elementary school, and did all the traditional Hebrew school, Sunday school, kept kosher in the house type thing, and very active at the Jewish Community Center. I was at the JCC almost every day, and that's sort of actually where I played a lot of basketball starting in 10th grade. Sort of got, improved my game playing in the JCC and the leagues there. And then when I came here, I'm been very active in the Jewish Community Center and the Federation here. Been board members and past chairs for 20 plus years, maybe even 30 plus years. By choice, not very active in the synagogue side as it relates to board work, but members and probably not as observant as I was growing up, but as observant enough. And my kids are raised Jewish, and their families are Jewish as well. So I'm very fortunate in that regard.
And so what have you been up to besides, obviously, your Jewish life? What have you been up to since your playing days ended?
Yeah, I actually have two careers now. For the first 30 plus years, I was a practicing, and still am, a practicing CPA and a partner which is now a national firm. And then about maybe 7 years ago, I had invested in a business, and then my partner said, "Why don't you help us run it?" And so I'm a CEO of a management company. So I sort of have two jobs. I'm very fortunate, lucky, have people I work with that I truly enjoy. My partners are great, and I'm still active enough, and I'm not one to sit home. So I actually enjoy work.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing your story, and appreciate your time.
You bet. Enjoyed it.